Welcome back to another monthly recap where I review movies I watched in the month. Today we're going to be reviewing of what I watched in the month of October. So you'll be expecting this video to be like at least, mostly scary movies recommended. So let's get started. First, what I watched was Saw X. I think Saw X is the best in the franchise. The plot felt more elevated than other Saw movies, where it's all being explained and spending more time with characters than cutting to their thrilling trap scene. The characters were pretty interesting and the traps were creative. This movie takes risks than other Saw movies, such as taking place in Mexico, having a kid involved in a trap with John. So this movie felt more original than the other Saw movies, and I like that. And I really like this movie and I do recommend it. I'm giving Saw X an 8.5 out of 10. Then I watched Mandy. Mandy is about a guy who goes through a bloody journey of vengeance to save his loved one. I love this movie. It has Nicolas Cage, who's my favorite. The acting in here did feel good. The disturbing nature of this movie was shocking and well done. I really love all the settings and shots in this movie. It felt more artistic, well shot. Set designs were really good. So I do love Mandy and I recommend this one as well. I think you should watch it and you'll like it too. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Then I watched The Collingswood Story. The Collingswood Story is a web horror movie taking place in the computer screen, and it also takes place in 2002. I found it on Shudder. If you, again, go get Shudder. I love that we get to experience a movie take place in early 2000s and on a computer. The movie was very well made. The entire plot felt interesting. A guy video calls his girlfriend and they both talk about this one witch, gypsy or fortune teller kind of woman who appears on the screen, and I forgot what she does. But I think the movie was well structured and well made with some horror shots that appear on screen. I think it was a decent movie. But seriously, everything in this movie looked great, everything was well made, but I do feel like in this movie it does drag on a little. Some of the stuff in here might seem uninteresting, but I liked it anyway. I'm giving The Collingswood Story a 6 out of 10. Then I watched Spirit Halloween. Spirit Halloween is about some kids who stay overnight in a closed Spirit Halloween store, and all the scary spirits from the Halloween items come to life, and it sucks. I randomly wanted to check this movie out because it was on Shudder, and I found out that I made a mistake by doing that. This movie is so bad and boring. I think it was so hard for me to watch it. It just seems so uninteresting. The plot, the characters, it's also not scary. This movie is the very opposite of a horror movie. It looks like everyone in this movie, whoever was involved, wasn't interested in what they made and what they were working on. This movie was like watching paint dry, like honestly. It's so boring and so stupid. Like everything in this movie, I hate. No one made an effort, like why does this movie exist and why did I watch it? I hate this movie. It's so bland and boring and uninteresting. I hate all the characters in here. I hate the plot and I hate how unscary this movie was. This movie felt like a movie for babies, total babies. So yeah, the fact that I checked this movie out was pretty stupid. I mean, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be a very good scary movie, but I wanted to check it out because, I don't know, I just want to have something to be mad about. But overall, this movie is pretty boring. I just hate this movie. It was uninteresting, not scary, stupid and boring. Everything, the characters, the horror that they attempt to, the plot, the characters, the everything, the settings, characters, everything in this movie. I hate it, and you should hate it too. I wish they all fucking disappeared or died or burned. I'm giving this a 1 out of 10. I do not recommend this movie. Please avoid it at all costs. Right then I watched VHS 85. VHS 85 is a pretty great movie. All the segments in here were done pretty well. They all have unique creative stories that were excited and were executed well. Horror was well executed. I already ranked all the segments from the movie in a separate video, but yeah, all the segments were very well done. I already talked enough about this movie. It's great and I love it. Again, you really have to watch this movie. I do recommend it. It's on Shudder. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Then I watched The Strangers. I think The Strangers is a pretty lame and boring movie. There's really nothing interesting or good about this movie. It's just a basic boring home invasion film. And I'm normally tired of home invasion horror movies. The three strangers don't feel scary. The two couples were dumb. I just don't like this movie overall. I find it not scary. Like, I find it the opposite of scary. I mean, it is a horror movie, but it is very unscary. Like, it is the opposite of scary. I don't know. I just don't find the strangers scary anymore. I don't find them entertaining. I don't find the strangers entertaining. Like, this movie, I don't find it entertaining. It sucks. But I do recommend it if you haven't watched it or are just in the mood for a horror home invasion movie. But I'm giving The Strangers a 3 out of 10. Then I watched Hell House LLC 2, The Abandoned Hotel. First Hell House movie was good. The second movie was kind of okay. It does have some flaws with weak horror, and yeah, the whole entire plot isn't great. I don't know if this movie is good like the first movie, but after watching this whole movie, I just quickly forgot everything about it. I mean, it is like the same first movie where all the haunted equipment like moves. But this movie is not as good as the first movie, and I don't think this movie is great in general. I honestly feel like it's a lame horror movie. Like, it's just lame. I'm probably gonna give it like a 4 out of 10. Then I watched Cannibal Holocaust. This movie is very extreme if you didn't know. It was controversial at the time it was released. It involved a lot of real animals dying and getting killed on screen. A lot of people thought this movie was real because the actors had to go into hiding for a year. The director had to be arrested in order for the actors to come forward. So just look this movie up somewhere to look at the backstory of this movie's creation. I rewatched this movie because it's on Shudder. I watched it before on Shudder. Somehow it's on Shudder. The movie still is disturbing because there's a lot of disturbing, terrifying blood imagery that makes you stressed and hard to even watch. So if you're gonna watch this movie, be careful because this movie is very disturbing and hard to watch. But I still like this movie. I mean, I'm not that scared anymore, but I do somehow find it triggering. And I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. Then I watched Funhouse. This movie is pretty ridiculously bad. The game horror movie where these influencers go to a secret place and to play and get being broadcasted everywhere where they all kill each other. The way these games and sets are set up are very lame, to be honest. It's lame and bad and boring, and you just wish the movie would end it already. There's lots of bad people in here that you just want them to die because they are so lame and boring and not interesting for the first time. But in the end, with the last two contestants, was honestly pretty surprising and interesting for the first time. They both kill each other by shooting each other, and that was pretty surprising and interesting part. So whatever, this movie is bad, boring, uninteresting, lame, bad made, poorly made, and designed, and I don't recommend it. It's honestly pretty, it's just so bad. It's just so bad everywhere. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. Then I watched Hostel. Hostel isn't a very interesting horror movie, but it does set up tension very well. But I still don't think this movie is that great. There is no reason to why people do this, and it's all pointless to why they even do it. They don't explain why they do all the torturing stuff, and there's just no real backstory to it. Like, there's just nothing. I heard that this was like a competitive with Saw, but at least Saw had like a backstory to why this is happening, and what it explains what's the point of all these games. Hostel doesn't even have a background to why all this torture is happening. It's just torturing people, and there's no reason or backstory to why they're doing this. It's just pointless. I've seen this movie lots of times, and honestly, this might be the last time watching it because it's disturbing, and I don't mind, honestly. I don't mind horror movies being very disturbing, but I just don't think this movie is that even interesting. That's why I don't feel like watching it anymore. There's 3 movies to this movie, and I've seen them all, and they're all pointless, just like the first one. I'm giving Hostel a 4 out of 10. Hostel just seems like an untouchable and unwatchable movie. Then I watched The Exorcist Believer. This movie is lame, pathetic, dog shit, awful, absolute disaster, almost everything that's labeled bad. This movie is like a Frankenstein of absolute horror, basic ghost dimension possession movies. Like, aren't we tired of all these exorcism movies already that have been coming out like dog shit? This movie could have been a random exorcism movie with a different title and probably would have been received better. I went hard on this movie when I reviewed it, and I wasn't holding back. It still is a piece of shit movie. It doesn't matter how much money went into it, it's still a piece of shit. Just go watch my review on this movie. I hate it for everything. The acting, the cinematography, the horror visuals, makeup, and the god-awful horror. I swear to God, this movie again is like the opposite of a horror movie. This movie tries to be like the original Exorcist movie, but just isn't. And I'm still giving this movie a 1 out of 10. After this movie, can we all stop working on exorcism, demon possessed films, please? Like, no one is asking for them. Just stop. Then I watched Final Exam. This movie is pretty uninteresting, with an uninteresting plot about a serial killer who I forgot why he killed these university students. Or I don't think there's no reason to why he's killing. All the other characters in here are pretty dumb and uninteresting as well. They're rude, they're mean and annoying, and you just want them to die already, which they do. Overall, there's nothing good to say about this movie. There's nothing interesting, there's nothing good. It's all bad. This movie is lame and ends in the most basic way of killing the killer, and the whole movie is just lame and horrible and basic. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Then I watched Blue Sunshine, a random pick from Shudder. Again, go get Shudder if you're interested in horror movies. Blue Sunshine is a kind of decent movie. I got lost in this movie and not making out what's even about, but there were some good scary parts in this movie that got me freaked out, that made me get goosebumps. Parts where the characters take off their hair or wig, they start to act psychotic. That kind of frightened me, honestly. There's shots that make this movie scary, and it actually works. The movie's directing is really on point, and it's really good. And so is the acting. The acting, I think everybody did a really decent job. I honestly forgot why all this turning bald and crazy stuff is happening. So probably it's because of stress, because there's a mother in this movie where she takes off her wig, revealing her bald, and tries to kill her kids. And I really did like this movie, and maybe you should give it a chance. And I'm giving this movie a 7 out of 10. Then I watched Mean Girls. Mean Girls is a pretty classic movie that I still enjoy watching. It's still enjoyable and funny and very comedic. It also has great characters and great character arcs in the end that made this movie an iconic and underrated gem. It was funny, the comedy landed very well and made me laugh. The plot in this movie was really creative, from having a basic start to then having an interesting story in the middle, and it ends amazing. And it's such a creative way with the characters having a change in the end, like having good character arcs in the end. That scene right there was really good. Also, a sequel to this movie that I haven't checked out, and I don't think I will because it looks like trash, and I heard it was very trash from others, and I will not watch it because it looks trash even though I didn't watch it. But Mean Girls at the end of the day is a very iconic, underrated gem that I still enjoy watching. It's still my very favorite movie. I'm giving it a 8 out of 10. Then I watched Hereditary. Hereditary is honestly a good movie. It's so great the way it was made by Ari Aster, who made Midsommar and Beau is Afraid, 2 movies that I do like from him. The horror was great, the acting and the score in this movie was great. The actors here gave really good performance. The horror is really effective. There are weird horror shocking moments happen and leave you unsettled, such as Charlie getting her head decapitated by a pole, which left me astonished for first time watching. And you will be left off astonished and disturbed when you're watching this movie. The ending scene was so great, and it leaves you disturbed and unsettled and questioning what you watched after the movie ended. That one score that plays at the end of the treehouse scene was absolutely great. It matches this scene, and I could play that music in high volume on my headphones. The movie does drag on a little bit, where it does feel like a basic horror nothing movie, but I like this movie. I'm giving Hereditary a 7 out of 10. Then I watched Ma. Ma is not a great movie. This is a kind of dumb, pointless movie, and it all in general feels dumb and shouldn't exist. The parents in here don't do a great job and just fail at parenting because they can't parent their kids properly. They're just lame and stupid parents. All the characters in this movie are very stupid and don't feel like what someone in reality would do. Ma is not a good antagonist. She wants to take revenge on these adults in this movie, who are the parents of these teenagers, by capturing and killing these teenagers because they bullied her in high school. So that's her way to take revenge on them, and honestly, it's so stupid and dumb. And these teens are stupid too. I mean, they're teenagers, but still they're dumb and don't do anything smart. Like, teenagers are not this dumb. Like, they're not this stupid. I know I mean, I feel like teenagers in reality could be smarter than these teens. They agreed to stop partying at Ma's house, and later in the movie, they party again at her place because there's drinks and beer, and it's someone's birthday. And the main character goes to Ma's house and gets trapped and drugged as a result of getting killed. Why not ignore your friends and leave them there? That's their problem. So whatever, this movie is pretty stupid and just dumb in general. It should not exist. I'm giving Ma 2 out of 10 or maybe a 1 out of 10. Yeah, maybe a 1 out of 10. Then I watched Five Nights at Freddy's. This movie is not great. This movie doesn't accomplish being scary, although one scene where the bandits break in. This movie looks like it tries to be a comedy, which I think it is. This movie is not a horror, it's a comedy, which could probably work. This movie feels like an extended Goosebumps episode, but without the horror. The characters' acting was fine overall. The plot is all uninteresting, and this movie made it obvious to who the big final ending villain reveal was. Like, it was kind of making it obvious about the ending. Like, I just saw the whole thing coming, like the whole ending. The scares are a wasted potential, and everything this movie was setting up was wasted. Like, this movie feels like it had everything coming, but it was all wasted. Like, it was all not very well executed. There was definitely a lot in this movie that was missing, and in overall this movie was kind of uninteresting and kind of bad. The only good compliment I could give this movie is the settings and the animatronic designs. I think we could all agree that the animatronics do look great. And we do all love the settings. But overall, I'm probably gonna give Five Nights at Freddy's a 4 out of 10, maybe a 3. And finally, I watched Rob Zombie Halloween. Rob Zombie is not a great, but also not bad filmmaker. I did like this movie so far, and I do consider it a good, solid remake. What I love was we get a backstory to Michael, which is something that the original movie never did, and we spend more time with Michael in the beginning and him developing into a killer, and we later get into the part of Lori, which turns out to be Michael's newborn sister. So I really liked Michael's backstory in this movie, which I think was the only good part of this movie. Everything else turns pretty much basic, normal, original Halloween plots, and all the characters in here are pretty annoying and you can't even stand them. Probably it's because of the acting. Everyone's acting feels very annoying, except Sherry Moon Zombie, who I think was a great actress in this movie in here. So that's all I had to say about this movie. It's basic, just like the original, except the first part of the movie, which is about Michael's backstory and why he became the killer of Halloween. It's a solid remake, and it shows that Rob Zombie does really care about this movie and for Halloween and Michael Myers. It's at least a better experience than the original, giving it a 7 out of 10. This is the Halloween movie that I rather watch more than the original, and that's my unpopular opinion. Unpopular opinion, I think Rob Zombie's Halloween is better than the original. So, that was it. That was all I watched in the month of October. Thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, because I will make more videos on monthly recaps, what I watched in the months, get into your rankings, and recommend some random shows and movies. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed. It's optional. Thank you all once again for watching and for sticking around. Love ya. Bye.